Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Spilling the Beans. Today I'll just start off by saying that really the hardest part about doing a podcast for me personally, when I'm actually recording, is probably the beginning of the podcast, the first 10 seconds or so, because I'll usually say hey everybody, welcome to another episode, followed by I'll have a list of things that I want to talk about, but I won't know how to kind of get into it, just because I'm not really a master at that. And so I'll have to look back at other episodes that I've released, but I feel like every time I start, it's hello everybody, and then I go to just I don't know. It's not that big a deal, but several times, when I start recording an episode, it's not it's the first time I pressed record and then I'm just going, it wasn't all the first try. I've probably done redone the first 10 seconds maybe twice before the one that's actually heard in the released podcast. So I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. There's nothing too specific today that I was going to talk about, just several things that, I wanted to talk about. There isn't there's no underlying theme in today's episode, just various things that I thought were interesting. And so, I guess we'll just get right into it. Recently I attended another concert. Let me backtrack. I think in the last episode, which was a shorter episode because I didn't really want to record too long of an episode that day. I think I may or may not have briefly mentioned the Def Leppard and Journey concert that I attended with my sister. If I mentioned it, I know I didn't talk about it in detail, so I'll take time to talk about that. And then I'll talk about the Owl City concert that I attended about a week ago. But first, Journey and Def Leppard. That's easily the most legendary concert I've ever been to, for various reasons. I mean, it's Journey and Def Leppard, both of which are some of the most famous musical groups in the world. I mean, they're listened to all over the world. They've sold millions of albums. Def Leppard sold over 100 million albums, and Journey sold, I think, over 75 million or something. And both of which, that's extremely impressive. You've really made your name known to the world if you've sold just millions upon millions of albums. And they're from the 80s, which in my opinion is the last era that has just consistently good and well-remembered music. Because today they make a lot of music, and there's some groups I like today. I love the Killers. Coldplay is awesome. Imagine Dragons comes out with some songs that I like from time to time. Owl City, I've talked about the Cinematic album that came out recently, just phenomenal. But I feel most of the music just doesn't have the heart and soul of the music from the 80s and 70s and before that. I talked about that in episode 8, where I talked about music, so you should check that out if you want more info on that. But anyway, back to the concert. They're just legendary groups. You have so many famous songs, Don't Stop Believing and Faithfully by Journey, just two of the most famous songs of all time, probably. And, Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard, that's easily their most famous song. And, the thing that was interesting about this concert was, I got 2 tickets, and I don't really want to admit how much each ticket was worth, that they were really expensive. Let's just put it that way. I'll probably never pay that much money for anything like that ever again. But the thing with this concert is that the majority of the people, they were of an older age group. You know, I took me, and then I took my sister Haley, who's almost 17, and then I'm almost 21. Actually, no, Haley is 17 now. Happy birthday, Haley. Congratulations, you're 17. Birthday was a few days ago. Anyway, so but we're pretty young in our lives, and the majority of the people there were, you know, in their 40s or 50s, maybe they brought some of their kids and told them, like, hey, these guys were popular when I was growing up, or things like that. You know, just because, I mean, like I was saying, this music was at its peak in the 80s. You know, 80s rock, classic rock. And I mean, it's 2018 right now, middle of October, almost 2019. We're in a new age of music. I'm not referring to the style of music called new age. I'm saying it's a new age of music. So don't get confused, all you Enya fans out there. I am one of them. But I mean, these guys are old men. Like, the members of the band are old men, you know? Like, each member of the bands that were there at the concert, they're essentially the ones that have been there from the beginning, you know, from the 80s. I know both bands have gone through several changes of band members over the course of their time as a band, but the 4 of the 5 signature members of Journey were there, with obviously Steve Perry. He wasn't there, but I gotta say though, the guy that they have as the lead singer for Journey now, he sounds a lot like Steve Perry. And I mean, he's a good singer too. You know, he was singing the notes in tune. He was able to hit those high notes really well. He interacted with the audience well. Like, he was a good choice to replace the, like, legendary Steve Perry. You know, he's no Steve Perry, but you don't think during the concert, like, oh, that's not Steve Perry. You think, like, this is Journey. It felt like Journey. All these guys are old, but like they've maintained their talent over the years. You know, you got Steve Smith on the drums. He's still just going crazy, and you know, Neil Sean, Ross Valerie, Jonathan Cain, all those guys. They're just still really good at what they do. And I cannot remember the name of the singer that they have now. I think it's like a Filipino name or something. I don't exactly remember. Sorry. But yeah, he's really good. And I mean, they're old guys, but they still know how to rock. Like, just because you get old, that doesn't mean you know how to rock. I mean, they've maintained their ability to impress and blow away over the course of the years. I don't really know what I'm saying. And the same goes for Def Leppard. You know, they have the same lineup that they've had for years. They really knew how to put on a show. Although I gotta say, one of the members of Def Leppard was using the F word a couple times when he was, or like 3 times or so when he was talking to the audience. And I was just like, oh, what? Like, none of their songs that Journey or Def Leppard has performed has had any language. And now you're just saying the F word. I was like, It's okay though. It was a great concert. And I mean, my sister Haley, she's more familiar with Journey than Def Leppard. So Journey performed first, and she knew all of the Journey songs pretty much. Maybe like 2 or 3 that she hadn't heard before. And then Def Leppard, she's not as familiar with, but I know she enjoyed it just because she enjoys essentially the same music that I love, which is like older music. And it was a great experience. Like, I don't think I've ever been in a at a concert or event that was that loud before. It was really loud. Like, it was face melting. Yeah, I didn't know Journey could be face melting, but they were. Like, like Rush is a very face melting band, and Journey, like, they just went crazy sometimes. It was really cool. And at one point, the drumming's happening, and the beat is just so strong and loud in the stadium we were at. We were at the Vivint Smart Home Arena, which is it's a pretty awesome facility. You know, it's where they have the jazz games and other concerts, you know. And it was just, the beat was so loud that, you know, you could feel it in your chest. And it felt like your heart was just beating to the music. Like, the beats of the song trumped the feeling of your heart. You couldn't even tell if your heart was beating anymore. It was just like, it was like the music, your body has accepted Journey and Def Leppard's music as its new blood, and your heart beats to their music, you know, their songs. And it was really quite an interesting experience. It was awesome. And something I learned about, let's try that again. Something I learned about Journey is that they're a bunch of nice guys in the band. You know, I mean, I know there's a lot of music artists out there that, you know, they think they're all that, they think they're the coolest or whatever. But like Journey, they were very humble when they performed. I mean, they talked about experiences they've had as a band, you know, like the reason they wrote the song Faithfully was because they were having a hard time on their tour being away from their families. And that made it seem more relatable. You know, it was like, oh, these are just people like us, you know. Their job happens to be performing their music, you know, telling their stories through music. And it felt like they were my neighbors. Like, I hang out with them sometimes. It was really cool. Very genuine people. And Def Leppard, they're cool too, you know. They were talking with the audience and whatnot. And they're a great band. I love their music. But Journey, I got a newfound respect for Journey that I hadn't previously had. And it was just really awesome. The concert was great. Haley kept saying, like, this is probably the most awesome thing I've ever been to. And she's probably correct. I mean, up to that point in her life, at least. Which is, I went to an Imagine Dragons concert about a year ago, and I took my sister Megan with me, and she said the same thing, like, that was the best $70 I ever spent, or whatever, however much the tickets were. It's amazing how concerts are awesome. Concerts for me are exhausting, though. Like, I don't go to concerts very often. I mean, I went to the Def Leppard and Journey concert about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. And then a couple weeks later, I went to an Owl City concert. I wasn't aware that they were performing in Utah, but I got a text from my friend Brandon, who is a phenomenal human being. He said, hey, there's an Owl City concert, and I'm going with a bunch of people from BYU. He's at BYU right now. And if you want to come with us, you're more than welcome. There should still be tickets available. It wasn't like you buy a ticket so that you can sit in a certain seat. It was just like, if you could buy a ticket, you're in, you know. It was like we were just standing, basically, you know. It's like a typical concert format. I feel like you're standing there, you know, and maybe moshing and whatnot. But yeah, I went with Brandon and these it was an interesting group of people, like great people. Like, I had to say, like, my friends have really good taste in friends. And I'm not just saying like they have good taste because I'm their friend, which is true, but like, the people that were with him were really cool people. Anyone that likes Owl City is probably going to be a solid human being. Just because, you know, Adam Young from Owl City, who I would love to just talk with. He seems like the coolest guy ever. He's just he's just really straightforward, just like, yeah, I have my beliefs, and, I'm me. I'm not more special than you guys. Like, he's really cool. And Owl City's music is, very uplifting, I don't really know if there's a song by Owl City where I'm like, oh, that's sad, that's depressing. I don't know, but anyway. Yeah, we went there. It was really cool because Adam Young, he had this like drum thing where he had these like drumsticks that were like glow sticks, and it was really cool. And he'd hit the drum. It wasn't like a drum. He would hit it and his voice would play through the speakers, like a recorded voice or something, like a phrase or something he would say. And he'd hit it over and over again, and it was kind of like a DJ, how they like take a recording of a voice and like play it over and like warp it and things like that. And he was playing his voice with drumsticks. I'd never even seen anything like that before, and it was cool. And I mean, I thought that Adam Young like wrote all the music and sang it and added in the synthesizers and stuff, which is true. He does do all that, but he's also really good at the drums, I found out. He had a drummer and a guy on the guitar help him with the songs. But I mean, he did a lot of the music. Like he can perform all the parts. He just needed the other guys to perform the other parts because he doesn't have 8 arms, And it was really cool. It was a cool concert. I can't say it was as mind-blowing as the Journey and Def Leppard one, but I'm still really glad I went. It was cool. I gotta say, like, Adam Young, he's a wizard at the synthesizer. He's got his little piano device. He's playing these crazy electric sounding notes, in his songs, and I'm a big fan of synthesizers done right. That's probably why I'm such a big fan of the 80s era of music, just because synthesizers were pretty big during that time. Sometimes they can be really annoying, but if they're done right, like Rush, they always use their synthesizers perfectly. And Phil Collins is also exceptional at it. And Journey uses synthesizers occasionally, and same deal, just really good. But yeah, it was a great concert. Had a really good time. Owl City is one of my favorite groups of today's music, and especially the last concert, the Owl City concert I just went to, because it was part of his Cinematic tour. Cinematic is the name of his most recent album, and I've talked about it before. It's just like a time capsule in an album. Every song is about something that's happened in his life, and it's very genuine feeling. It's very powerful and compelling music. Just really, really cool. I recommend that album to anyone. And so, yeah, that was a great experience. I really don't go to concerts that often. Like I said, they're just exhausting. I have been to several concerts. So I've been to Def Leppard and Journey, obviously, and Owl City, and Imagine Dragons. I've also been to a Brandon Flowers concert, which was kind of like a 2-in-1 concert because he performed, and then he performed, but he also performed some Killers songs. Those are so Brandon Flowers, he's the lead singer of the Killers, but he also does solo music as well. And so most of the concert was music promoting his latest album for his solo work, but he also performed some songs that he sings when he's in the Killers. And that was really cool. It was like I got to hear the Killers and Brandon Flowers. And I've been to Vocal Point performances in the past. I think I've been to like 2 or 3 or so, and those are really fun. Like, Vocal Point is easily my favorite a cappella group. I'm not as into a cappella music as I used to be, but I still really enjoy it. In Vocal Point, it's always a safe bet that Vocal Point will impress you. Like, they're always very talented, and they switch out members on a routine basis. So you always hear these new voices, and like different talents and abilities. It's really cool. I love how dynamic Vocal Point is in that regard. Anyway, that's enough about music. I have a lot of other things I'd like to talk about today. Let me just cross that off the list. Something I want to talk about is two of my favorite guys on YouTube, Rhett and Link. I love those guys. Maybe if you're familiar with the YouTube channels, you've probably heard of Good Mythical Morning. That's probably what they're most known for these days. It's a pretty popular YouTube channel. Gets I'm gonna pause for a second because the door might be for me. Oh, never mind. It's not for me. It's the fast offering deacons. Anyone part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will get that joke. Not like joke, but anyway. Yeah, Rhett and Link. I love those guys because I think they're hilarious. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of their most recent stuff. It's still quite entertaining and fun, but I love them because they're entertainers. They're on YouTube, and they got a YouTube channel which is essentially like a TV show, just like in the YouTube format. But they're just good people too. I mean, I love a lot of movies and stuff, that are from Hollywood. I think are good movies. But a lot of the actors and, directors and things, they're just not really the best people in real life. They're not very good examples and whatnot. But Rhett and Link have said multiple times on their show and, on their podcast Ear Biscuits, which I highly recommend, they've stated many times that, their families are really important to them and that they really strive to be good fathers and good husbands. And, like work is important, obviously, but I mean, they have these jobs ultimately so that they can sustain their families, they can feed their children and whatnot. And I just think that's very honorable. And, they're not in it for, the glory and the fame. I was listening to one of their podcasts, one of their episodes of their podcast, Ear Biscuits, recently, and they were going in depth about their career and like how sometimes they work too hard and they get burned out, and how that's a problem for other people on YouTube, and just how that can take a toll on them. One of the problems with being a YouTube creator is that, people watch your videos every day. Let's say you release a video every day or so. If you stop releasing them, the fans get frustrated and they're like, "Hey, where's your videos, man? I want to see your videos. Like this isn't cool, man." And they don't exactly know the reason why they've taken a break or whatnot, or maybe the creators have stated why they're taking a break, but the fans still aren't happy about it or whatever. Rhett in particular was talking about how, like YouTubers, that their job is really fun. They get to do these funny things, and they get to produce their own content, and just make money on YouTube, which from the viewer's perspective, it seems like the easiest and most fun job ever. But as Rhett and Link were talking about it, they're talking about how it's not all it's cracked up to be. I mean, obviously it's a really cool thing, really awesome opportunity, but they're people too, and they need to not overwork themselves and take breaks. And Rhett said something that really stuck out to me. He said, "Success and happiness are largely unrelated." And I knew that, but hearing that come from somebody who I would consider very successful, both Rhett and Link, I thought that was very eye-opening. Just like that is true. I mean, it has to be true because that's coming from somebody that they're very well known. They're very famous. I mean, they're not up there with, the celebrities in Hollywood and whatnot, or whoever's popular in music, but they're still really well known. Like millions of people know who they are. Where for me, it's like probably less than like 1,000, like probably less than like 500 people even know who I am, you know. But I just thought that was really true, and that's important to me because my definition of success varies from time to time, and that's the reason you can never be happy, is because, you know, everyone's definition of success is different. You know, I usually view success as like, you know, you make a considerable amount of money, you know, fairly wealthy, like you're very successful when you have a lot of money, you know, from a business standpoint. And, you know, that's true, you are successful, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're happy. And Rhett mentioned something that I've said that makes me happy, is serving others. That was another thing that really stuck out to me. It's like, when I think of people that serve others, I wouldn't think of Rhett and Link, like they wouldn't be the first people to come to mind, you know, no offense, of course. I mean, they're great people. It's just, you know, they're very successful, and I just wouldn't think of it that way. But when he said that, that's one of the things that maintains his own personal sense of happiness, that just was the coolest thing ever. And I knew I had to talk about that. And, you know, sometimes I've talked about this feeling before that I have of like I'm falling behind in life. You know, my peers are all getting married. They have these nice jobs. They can, you know, they can interact with people a lot better than I can. You know, I'm really quite a shy person. I mean, it's hard for me to go up to somebody and get to know them. I mean, I feel like I'm very what's the word I'm looking for? How do you say it? I know how to say it in Japanese, but how do you say it in English? Just approachable. You know, I feel like I'm very approachable and friendly, and like I think I'm pretty cool. You know, not in like a prideful sense, like, yeah, man, I'm the coolest kid on the block. But like, you know, like I'm not uncool. Like if you're a solid person, you'll probably like me just because I know I've got my head on straight. I mean, not talking about my brain. My brain is really messed up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, where am I even going with this? I totally lost my train of thought. But, oh, yeah, being shy and then, like, you know, I feel like I'm sometimes not as capable as other people. But, you know what? That shouldn't determine my happiness. You know, I really am happy. I mean, I've got a great family that loves me. And I have great friends that are there, you know, they've got my back. You know, my friend Nate that I've talked about in past episodes, just a phenomenal human being, just excellent person. He was just driving by the other day and he stopped by my house. I was just like, hey, what's up? And that was really cool, and it really meant a lot to me, just because, you know, I'm not always in the mood, or I don't have time to, you know, reach out to people and see how they're doing. But he took time out of his schedule to come and visit me. That was really cool, and it was touching. And you know, I'm grateful for things like that. Like, although life can be hard, and things, you know, I have a lot of blessings. I think it was the last episode I talked about having like that sense of gratitude. Really, it does make a huge difference. Like, having the reason people say you should have an attitude of gratitude is because you'll be much happier. Like, I really am living, I really have like the best life ever. I'm so blessed with all these things, you know. I have a roof over my head, you know, I have food to eat. I mean, I have my sister Lindsay yesterday. The thing with ADD, I've talked about this, is that your motivation to do things really declines exponentially, and topped with like depression and anxiety, it was worse. And so I was really hungry, but I didn't want to go out to eat because I'd already done that a couple times in the week, and I'm trying not to eat out very much. but I was starving. I didn't want to make something for me just because I think cooking is so boring. So my sister, she was nice, and she made me a delicious sandwich. It was very good. I paid her $3 for it. So essentially I went out to eat. But, you know, she was willing to do that for me. I'm just surrounded by amazing people, and, you know, I've got all these resources to help me. Just like, I have it really great. And I really shouldn't complain about, you know, how my life is. And, you know, and like I was saying about Rhett and Link, Rhett said that his level of happiness hasn't gone up because they've gotten bigger on YouTube. It's just that he's been able to maintain those things. You know, he's got a family that loves him, and, you know, he's able to be a good father and serve others, and that just really stuck out to me. And I know the same can be said for Link as well, and that was really cool, and that stuck out to me. And something that I read something about Phil Collins. He has a song that's really awesome called Another Day in Paradise. It's a great song. It's essentially a song about how, you know, there's people just living on the streets, and, you know, people aren't really sure how to react to them, and like how we need to treat them or help them. It's the song that kind of makes you think, like, how can I help these people that have less than I do? He got a lot of criticism for writing that song because he was very big in the music industry at that point, and he had a lot of money, and people were making the argument that he couldn't write songs like that because he had everything. So how would he even know? Like almost as if he were being a hypocrite. And he basically, Phil Collins responded to that criticism basically by saying something like, just because I have more money than these people, that doesn't mean they don't have less money. I mean, the problem is still there, even though I have more money. You know, there's still people struggling, and just because I have more money, that doesn't mean I can't acknowledge it and address it. And I thought that was really interesting. It's like, that's true, you know, the world, all the things going on around the world, all the struggles and issues that there are, they happen even if you're rich, you know, like people still struggle, and, you know, things still happen. And, you know, even if you have a lot of money, that doesn't mean you have everything, and you can't be aware and address these things. Anyway, basically just hearing these people who I consider celebrities say these things is just very fascinating to me. Something else that really was cool to me was hearing about how, this is Rhett and Link again. Rhett I love both Rhett and Link. It's just Rhett said a lot of things in this episode of Ear Biscuits that really stood out to me. They were talking about how at one point in their career they had overcommitted to this insane schedule, and they were burning themselves out. They were overworked, and, you know, their mental and emotional capacity was getting to the point where it could be compromised. And Rhett was in a situation where he was so stressed out about work that he started experiencing physical problems due to his insane amounts of stress. You know, like he was going blind at one point. It was this temporary condition that you get from stress. I can't remember what it's called, and various other things that were happening to him, where eventually he started seeing a therapist to kind of help out with his stress. And that stuck out to me because, you know, I've seen therapists before, and for a long time I had the mentality that only crazy people need to see therapists. Like, you really need to just you really need to lose it if you're gonna, you know, see a therapist or a counselor or something. And to hear, like, one of my favorite famous people say that they've gone to therapy, I thought that was the coolest thing. It's like someone that I, you know, look up to for various reasons, has also gone to therapy. It's like, I'm not alone. Like, I never would have guessed that he's gone to therapy. And I think it's more common than people realize, you know? Like, I know it's not uncommon for newlyweds to go see a therapist, you know, just kind of help their relationship, or, you know, people that are struggling with things that we don't see, that aren't obvious just on the surface. I just thought that was so fascinating. Like, he's been to therapy and I've been to therapy. It's like, I'm not just some crazy person. And I mean, I don't mean to label everyone that sees a therapist as a crazy person. I mean, I believe there are legitimately crazy people that just need help, but there's also normal people that, you know, they just need somebody that understands emotions and mental health to talk to them and help them. It's just like going to see the doctor if you break a leg or something. It's really no different. And anyway, I just thought that was really cool. While I'm talking about like emotional health and stuff, something that I've been having an issue with is sleeping through my alarm. I mean, the issue is I've been sleeping through my alarm. And this is particularly annoying on Sundays because the singles ward, the congregation I attend right now, the singles ward, they meet at 9:30, and that's really not too early at all. Like, that's not early at all. 9:30 is perfectly reasonable. But I just have sleeping troubles, you know, and I usually don't sleep very well, and so fortunately my work schedule, I don't go in until about noon. Well, yeah, I don't go until noon. And so that way I can wake up when I want, and if I need to rest a little more, I can. Fortunately I have that flexibility. But for the singles ward, sometimes I'm so tired I'll sleep through my alarm. Like I'll wake up and I'll turn it off, but I'll be so tired that I'll just sleep again, and I have no memory of even waking up and turning it off. And so basically it's hard for me to get there on time, or get there at all. And I mean, and if I can't make it to the singles ward, it's not like I won't get to church. Like, I'll get to church, like I'll go to my home ward that my family attends, which meets at 11, and usually by then I can make it and whatnot. But that's been kind of a hard thing. And so I decided I had a good idea, and I'll tell you why this is a good idea. So my sister, she doesn't struggle with this. I need to learn some things from her. She also goes to the singles ward that I go to, and you know, if I'm not awake or if I'm not ready, she'll just drive herself. And usually, and I mean, it's just like, my sister will go regardless. So if I don't go, it's like, whatever, she'll just leave without me. However, I thought if I get somebody that drives to my house and depends on me to be ready, then that will stress me out. And here's why this is a good thing. Because if that stresses me out, that, like, if I have that thing that I'm dependent on being ready at this certain time, then I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh yeah, it's Sunday, I gotta get ready because, you know, Nate's gonna come by and pick me up or whatever. And so I made a deal with my friend Nate again, just great human. I said, hey, can you give me a ride to the singles ward? And that sounds weird because, you know, my sister, she goes, you know, she drives one of the cars, and, you know, I could easily just go with her. But if I can stress myself out, which is a form of motivation, it's like I'm blackmailing myself, or kind of, well, you know what I mean. It's like I'm doing something unpleasant to myself to force myself to do something. And so if I can be picked up by Nate, who probably has like meetings after church and stuff, I can get a ride home from my sister who will be there. And so that way I'll be able to attend the singles ward, because I really should attend that. I really should be with, you know, my peers, people around my age. I can get to know people that way. That's something I really need to work on, is being more social in that regard. And so it's like I'm manipulating my problems to solve a problem in a way. Like I'm taking advantage of things that I already struggle with and turn it into, like, channel that into like an asset. Like I'm taking my mental illness of anxiety and turning it into a benefit. And I don't know, I hadn't really thought about that before. That's something I need to take advantage of, is my problems, and see like how I can use it to help myself or help others or whatever. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. If you hear that clicking sound, that's me clicking this pen. I keep crossing off the things on my list. Oh, here's a thing that I wrote on here: green tea drink. So what I've been doing for breakfast lately, for years, like many years, it's been difficult for me to eat in the mornings. I just really don't have much of an appetite. I feel kind of, not like nauseous, but the thought of eating it does not appeal to me at all. And I know that's not uncommon, but for me, it lasts a long time. And I think it's intensified due to, certain medications that I'm on and whatever. And obviously it's better to eat than it is to not eat, I mean, today is Fast Sunday, and so, we're fasting, and that's fine, but obviously you should eat breakfast if you can. And so, I mean, that's a no-brainer. So just as long as I get something down in the mornings, that is good. That's better than nothing. I need that energy. And so I've been drinking juices that I get from the store. It's like a blend of different fruits or whatever, and it's just fruit. There's nothing else. It's not like added sugar or corn syrup or whatever. Like it's juice, not that weird, those weird tropical, like, it's not Sunny D or something that's like 5% juice. It's 100% juice. And I've been drinking that in the morning, and I found that I'm able to get that down and not feel sick afterwards. And so yesterday I was running some errands, and I was out of juice, so I got like it was like green fruit goodness or something. Green goodness, I can't remember. And it looked good, it had like apples and kiwis on it. I was like, ooh, this looks good. I haven't had this flavor. And usually my mom picks up juices at the store for me and just gets things, that she thinks I'll like and whatnot. It's hard to go wrong with juice. But I got this green juice that looked really good, and I thought to myself, like, oh, there might be green tea in this, because sometimes they put green tea in stuff, and I thought it might be in here because it's green goodness, and I thought I had checked for it, but I came to the conclusion that there wasn't green tea in it. And so I bought it, and I brought it home, and then my dad, he tried some, and he looked at the ingredients. He's like, there's green tea in this. Like, we don't really one of the things we believe in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is what we call the word of wisdom. For any that aren't familiar with that, it's just basically, to sum it up, it's like a health code. It's like a standard we live by to like keep our bodies healthy and like kind of take care of our bodies and protect them. But anyway, tea, we avoid tea because it can be an addictive substance. And so anyway, I bought that, and I was debating like whether, since I had bought it already, if I should just try some or if I should just dump it, because it's like I'd only have a little bit, like it's just like a little bit of green tea. It's not even alcohol or anything like that. It's just tea, and I bought it on accident. It's like I wasn't trying to like buy green tea. Maybe I'll just try a little. And I almost did. I was really close to having some. I shook up the bottle and I took off the cap, smelling it like, ooh, what's green tea smell like? I'm such a bad boy, And I was really close. Eventually I was just like, you know what? It's not worth it, like, who cares what green tea tastes like? I'm just gonna dump it. So yeah, I just dumped the rest. I didn't have any. I was proud of myself. And that's one of the, like, that's not even close to, like, one of the worst things someone could do is drink green tea. But for me, that was a big thing, just because, like, I totally could have had some. It was right there. I could have known for myself, like, what drinking something with green tea is like. I just got a text from my friend. He's here waiting for me. Fortunately, my podcast is almost done, so I guess on that note, I'll just finish up by saying, well, I mean, like I said, there's no underlying theme, so I suppose I'll just, I'm kind of tired, but thank you guys for listening. Hopefully something I said today was of some use to you, some level of entertainment, but thanks again, and we'll see you at the next episode, I guess.